been out this morning and spoken to some friends who've got some grass that needs cutting. So I volunteered to give a bit of a hand. Which means inevitably that it's time to get the mower out. But because I've got fewer sheds than I've got stuff, it means the mower is going to have to come out from its winter hiding. And this is where it lives, under this sort of series of sheets and things in the back of the shed that's normally occupied by the David Brown. You can see also lurking in the back there is the sort of spinal column for the Vicon Acrobat hay turner, so that's going to be in use as well. So we've got to move some stuff round to get the mower out. I have used the mower on the back of the David Brown. That's the top of the cutter bar there. And it works okay, but it's surprising it works much better on the Fergie. So that's what we need to do, is to get tractors changed round. And there's a bit of preparation to do first, so let's get stuck into that. Not only that, but I always seem to have got the wrong tractor in the wrong shed. The mower doesn't fit in this shed, and the mower on the back of the Fergie doesn't fit in this shed. But the Fergie is smaller than the David Brown and it fits in this shed better. So they all live in different places. But the first thing to do before we get anything done is to get the back of the Fergie sorted out, because getting the 732 Massey Ferguson mower on, there's a sort of sequence of doing things. If I do it wrong, there's a lot of jacking things up and pulling pins out and quite a lot of swearing. So I'll get the Fergie moved forward and then we'll get that ready before changing the tractors round. So I've got the keys this time. That's the second time of trying. Let's just turn the petrol on. I haven't used this lately, but as we're in summertime and it isn't raining, right, that's the key to the lawnmower. Let's got that one sorted out. I've now got the Fergie key. Just get the universal close peg to go on the choke. Bit of throttle, let's give it a go. Well, that was quite successful. It's funny how this sound system I've got, it doesn't like exhaust pipes. It's alright with talking, but it gets itself in a bit of a muddle when it gets an exhaust pipe going. Right, I'm going to move you around the back. We'll have a look at what needs doing. Now, the important parts of getting the mower on successfully, the first thing is this stabilizer pin here, which is attached to the bottom of the mudguard, or the bottom of the axle on the mudguard. It's on the axle on the mudguard mounting. As you can see, that's just the usual sort of clevis pin, category 1 pin. The mower needs to have a stabilizing bar on it, because otherwise it tends to rock a bit on the lower link arms. So the trick is to get that bar on before I get anywhere near the mower, because once the mower's on, because the bar, the bar actually goes on the inside of the ball here. So of course, once you've got the mower on, then you can't really take this off without a lot of jacking, and everything goes on the twist. The other problem I've got, which you'll have seen earlier on with the saw bench, is I've got the old-fashioned sized PTO drive, and it needs to have the bigger one because it's a 732 mower, which is a Massey Ferguson implement. So I have to put an adapter on. You'll sometimes see on eBay, people on YouTube rather, people will talk about how these adapters don't last and they break up and fall to pieces. I would vouch for that because I've had one of those. It just falls to bits and gets screwed up, especially if the load on the implement is fairly heavy. It puts a lot of stress onto that. But as you'll see, I've got a cast iron adapter which actually came with the tractor, which is a tough old thing, and it's not made of this sort of muck metal, which a lot of these modern ones are, which you get from spares places. The ideal thing is probably to change the PTO, take it right out and put a new one in, but I don't use it that often, so it's not really worth the expense. So let's get this bar here, we'll get that on, and it has to be tied up to the underneath of the link arm. It sounds a bit of a performance, but that's the only way to get it to work. I'll show you. Right, well, here's the bar. I've just got it leaning up against the link arm. It's quite specific for the job. So not only is it strong enough, it's long enough, but as you can see, it's got a very slight twist in the end, at each end, just a slight bend. And that's absolutely necessary, because when the mower is operating, it sits at about this point here. So there's a slight offset. So there is a reason for that having a slight bend in it. Okay, so let's get the pin out. Like so. And put the bar on with the slight tilt going in the right direction. As you can see, that's just bringing that over. So when the mower's on, that will sit so when the bar is on, it will sit like that and hold that exactly the right place, and it won't swing about. Just double checking. Yeah, it does go on the outside. I think I said earlier it goes on the inside, which isn't right. It goes on the outside. The trouble is doing these jobs once a year, you tend to forget how things go, but that's how it fits. But that now needs to be tied up, otherwise when you reverse in to pick the mower up, this is dragging in the ground and it ends up sort of getting in a bit of a muddle, dug into the ground. But I'll tie that up with a bungee strap. There we are, bungee strap on, and that's ready to go to reverse in to pick the mower up. When I say reverse in to pick the mower up, I'll try and film that. It's a bit tricky, but the mower doesn't look a very heavy thing when you just look at it on the ground, but my goodness, it's hellishly heavy, and it's as awkward as hell. It'll sort of fall over, and it's just really difficult. So it depends how well I put it in last autumn as to how well it comes out this time, but I try and put it in fairly square, but it's always on the huh, as we tend to say in Suffolk. Now the next job is to get the PTO shaft cover off, and here I have the Ferguson spanner, which rather conveniently fits on quite nicely. We can take the PTO cover off. It does leak just a smidge of oil, that's not too bad, but that's okay. Right, now this thing here is the PTO adapter. Now the ones you'll see for sale are quite light. When you pick them up, they're quite light, and clearly made of some sort of zincy type stuff. I don't know what it is, but it just, when you pick one up, you think it's a bit thin, hasn't got much in it. This quite clearly is cast steel, and it's heavy, and this is very good. So what I'm going to do, it sits on like, well, like it should do, I suppose. What I'm going to do is to line the hole up. There's a hole in the PTO which you can see just there. That lines up with a hole in the adapter, and it's all fitted in with a roll pin. And that I used last year with absolutely no difficulty at all. And so obviously the drive for the mower sits on there, but you can feel the whole thing is really quite substantial, and that should do the trick. So the first one lasted for a couple of years, but one summer I had some very thick grass. It was a wet summer and the grass was long and wet, and it was a bit of a job, and the tractor was struggling and the mower was struggling, and I was in bottom gear and it was all a bit hellish, and suddenly everything stopped, and this adapter, this muck metal adapter, just absolutely disintegrated. And if you look on YouTube, you'll see pictures of where people have had them where they've just, the end has just screwed off, and I've been there and done that. So this is good. Whether you can buy these or not, I'm not sure. As I say, when I bought the tractor off an old mate of mine who died, this came with it, so it was quite fortunate. Next two items on the agenda is the top link. As you can see, I use a Fergie top link, but of course with a Fergie you haven't got height control, although I sort of have on this, as you'll have seen from a previous video, but it's not absolutely foolproof. So when the mower is on the tractor and in work, when you drop the linkage down, it will go too low given half a chance. And I'll show you the bottom of the mower. The end of the end here of the link should be 19 inches from the ground. And if it's that height, it works perfectly. If it's not, it doesn't. So what you then have is this piece of kit, which is the link, which will link the top link. And that's what that rack arrangement's on there for. If you haven't experienced one of those, they're quite a necessary thing for this. With this rather strange chain and hoop, the hoop, I'll show you in a minute, goes over the top link. Again, that's a Fergie thing, and they're quite rare. I managed to find this one on eBay. But you can just use a shackle, a big shackle, but it doesn't work nearly as well. It's just the radiuses and things aren't quite right. But that goes over the top link, and I'll show you that in a sec. Right, there we are. Now the link is over the top link. Can you see? And that, you've got those teeth there where you can move that hoop up and down to shorten or lengthen the chain. And you can see the original chain here wasn't quite long enough because I use this for various implements, so I put a shackle and some more chain on. But that goes on to the shackle end, this end here, that goes on to the top of the mower. You'll see that when we get the mower on. But if you don't put this loop on now, if you had a shackle you could open it, but if you don't put that loop on now, once the mower is on, then you've got to jack it all up to try and get the top link off to get that loop over. So if you've got one of those, or if you're getting one of those, make sure you put that on at this stage. Otherwise it will result in language. While I'm here, I'll just show you again this sort of crutch arrangement which the top arms go into. We've looked at this before, but it's obviously been sitting with the links on it. So when I'm carrying the mower down the road, I'll use that. But if I just lift the lower link arms, that pops off, and now the hydraulics are hanging on the pump. So when that's engaged, that comes back, as we've looked at before. There we are. That just sits under those top link arms. That were the arms that operate the lower links. But if you haven't got one, and you do cart implements about, and you find everything going south half the time, or you leave your pump running, you can do that. Turn the pump off, and it's just hanging in on that frame that goes under those top pins there, and then down onto that main pin there. But it's a really good thing. If I'm using any of the hay turners and things, they're all heavy, saw bench, all of that stuff. If you're on the road, it just takes the pressure off the pump, and without the fear everything's going to end up hitting the deck. Well, making a little bit of progress. David Brown's out of the way, so we can see the back end of the mower here. So you can see the PTO, you can see there's a pin, Cat 1 pin, just there. And also it's got the chain link on it. Can you see the link there? Let me just give it a little bit of a fiddle. This one here, that's the breakaway chain. So if you clobber something big and the whole mower breaks away, that stops it swinging too far out. That sits on that pin. The other pin is just there. Can you see it? Just there. So that's what we've got to line up to and try and pick up. And obviously the top link pin is there, which reminds me I need to make sure I bring one in. So getting all this lined up is, apart from all this junk of the hay turner which is in the background, which is a bit of a nuisance, but it has to go somewhere. It does all fit in, but it is a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, getting everything in. But this obviously, that blue and white rope holds the PTO out of the way, because that gets in the way infuriatingly. The bungee strap that's sitting next to it goes onto that link down there, which sits underneath the left-hand lower link arm. And if you don't put a bungee strap in, it rattles like a devil with the vibration. And over here, sitting at the back there, is 2 spare knives. They cost me nearly as much as the mower, which is extraordinary, but there we are. It's the way of life. So there's 2 knives there, they're all okay. I'm going to actually take the knife out. I didn't do it last year, at the end of the year, just to make sure all the sections are tight, because the rivets can come loose. And sitting in the corner there is the swarf board, sitting at the bottom with the stick. I'm on about my 3rd stick, but that's the first one that hasn't had woodworm, and it's lasted quite well. So lesson learned. But let's see if we can get the tractor in without causing injury.